Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Or rather, right now, we're talking a whole lot of politics. But beforehand, we are going to talk, before we get into Robert Reich's piece, we are going to have a special guest on. And I didn't put that in the report because we weren't sure if he was going to be able to make it in on time because he's out there working the hell out of this election. But let's go ahead and bring in Daniel J. Cohen from Indivisible Houston. Daniel, is that you out here?
It is. How are you, Egberto?
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm in a local business in my own precinct, and I feel good. It's a great day for democracy. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. One of the reasons I really wanted to have you on today, Daniel, is because you are doing something that a whole lot of folks need to do. You are a precinct chair, let me first tell you, you are currently the president of Indivisible Houston, but you are on the show today as not in that facet, but as a Democratic activist and a precinct chair. Is that correct?
I'd like to talk party politics today and talk with people about good ways to engage their local community members. So sure.
So anyhow, this is interesting because Daniel called me up sometime last week and he said, Egberto, we found an apartment complex with, I think it was, he's going to explain this, but these are people that have never been touched by anybody in the political machine. Expedient, or not expedient, but they were expendable people as far as parties are concerned. But Daniel Cohen, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how you found out about this and what you're going to do about it, Daniel?
Well, there's information out there. If you compare the census to the number of registered voters out there, then we know that there are tons of voters in precincts, certainly across in the Houston area, likely across Texas, and probably across the United States, who are not registered to vote, who are not being engaged by campaigns. And a lot of these voters are not engaged either because an organizer has not decided to do it, and there's nobody in that area focusing on it, or because, as you put it, the voters were considered expendable by campaigns. Or another way of looking at it is that there are chairs or organizers who are not actually touching those areas. It could be because of preconception. It could be because they don't think that they're accessible. But the bottom line is that you have a First Amendment right to canvass any door, and most of these doors are accessible in the first place. It's just a matter of somebody knocking on the door. So in my precinct, there are tons of different doors that are similar to that. There are tons of apartments and people who are mobile, who haven't been spoken to about elections and what's going on, and the fact that there are not only top-of-the-ticket statewide positions on the ballot for this upcoming election, but also that there are judges and state representatives and everybody all the way down the ballot who's going to be able to be selected by these individual voters. And so nobody's taken the time to talk to them and make it real to them, to talk about where their tax dollars are going, to talk about their local education system, to talk about the fact that the judges that we elect are the ones who are going to be determining what happens in their cases, whether it's a criminal or civil case or a family courts case. So today, at 4 o'clock, we're going to try to knock on 1,000 doors in areas that have not been knocked. They have been lit dropped. They have been given voter registration information, and we will make a second pass on that today as well. But today we're really going to knock on every door. And everybody that comes is going to make sure to talk about a specific candidate that they care about in the local community, because elections are decided not by coattails but by grass tops.
Now, Daniel, why hasn't this been done before?
Like I said, sometimes there's not an organizer in the area, and sometimes there are preconceptions about, on behalf of the organizers in the area. You always send people out in teams of two, and if you want to be a civically engaged leader, if that's really what you're focused on, or if you want to be civically engaged altogether, then any door is a door that deserves to be knocked, because everybody who's here is looking for representation. If you look at all the governing documents that we have and everything that truly would uphold a democracy where people have their rights, then there's not a door in the county that shouldn't be knocked for the upcoming elections for Harris County, and frankly, probably not a door in the country. But the bottom line is that they don't get knocked because people might say, they're not going to turn out, or they might say, this is a shady area, I don't want to walk in this area. It could be any number of different things. But the point is that all of these voters go untouched, undiscussed, and frankly unrepresented, because a precinct chair position and an organizer position you are a representative of people. It is your job to help them handle everything from casework to advocacy to information. So there are people who are basically cut out of the process or left behind in this whole process because of these preconceptions, or because an organizer has not stepped up in that area. In both parties, more than around half of the chairs, I would say at this point, remain unfilled in the state of Texas. And of the remaining precinct chairs, that there are at least some who are not organizing their community, or who are not knocking on some of the doors that are likely, frankly, voting for them. So tons of people just go unrepresented all of the time, and the only time that they get to poke, the only time they're encouraged to poke their head up is during campaign season, and when somebody shakes their hand and wants them to come out and vote. But what people need to do, and it's good to go and ask people to vote, and it's good to engage them, but we need to continuously do that in all of the different areas on a regular basis, so we can hear what people need, what people want in their community, and actually bring them representation.
Now, Daniel, this is a national show, and what you're talking about is not restricted to Houston, but to the entire country. So I think what we're seeing here is I think there's some techniques that are out there there's some laws, if you will, that's not laws, but sort of things that are that says if you touch people a certain amount of times, you can turn them into voters. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but generally speaking, every time you talk to somebody, you increase the likelihood that they're going to turn out. I don't remember the exact number. I want to say it was 10%, but we'll take 10% just to demonstrate the point. If somebody's got a 10% likelihood of turning out, or 50% likelihood of turning out, or whatever it is, and you continually go back to their door, you can take somebody who probably wasn't going to vote and start showing them why it's important to come to the polls and giving them an opportunity to get engaged in the system. If you're knocking on the door of somebody who's 99% likely to turn out and you knock on their door 8 times, you probably need to reapportion your labor and what you're doing. But yeah, it definitely increases the likelihood that somebody's actually going to come to the elections.
Give me a message for the entire country as far as how can we get the progressive base to turn out?
Well, it's already there. It's just a matter of going and actually having the conversation and getting that practice in and getting outreach in and getting people engaged. Right now there's a gap, and it's the gap between somebody who doesn't vote and somebody who does vote is very similar to the gap between somebody who votes but hasn't canvassed and somebody who is an experienced canvasser or who is willing to go out. There are a lot of first-time canvassers in the streets, and it's not you can get off the ground in one canvassing session. What I would say is this: if you're a voter but you've never canvassed before, then definitely get involved with a candidate that you care about, or a cause that you care about right now, or a party that you care about, or an election seat that you care about, and go out and knock doors with somebody right now and get off the ground. If you are already knocking and you want to find other ways to bring some sort of organizing experience to the table, I think that's great. And if you're not currently voting, then you should be voting, because the people who you elect are the people who will be judging you in a courtroom. They're the people who are going to decide whether or not the schools in your neighborhood are good or bad. They're the people who are going to decide whether what are the possible criminal justice reform elements that pass, what penalties are going on in your courtrooms. They're the people who are going to decide what's going on with your tax dollars. And from top to bottom, they're the ones that are going to make decisions for you. A lot of people only vote during presidential years, but my mom, who is incredibly bright and has been an activist for a long time, once said to me, the closer a person's desk is to your front door, the more power and control they have over your lives. So you need to vote in every election. You got to get out there in every election. But if we're not actually going out and talking to people, then, you know, they don't have a chance.
Now, Daniel, let me invite a few other people out here to share the program. Folks, if you are on Facebook Live on this time, please go ahead and share this program on your wall, share this program on your page, tweet this program, do everything with this program. Now, if you are on Blog Talk Radio, the Blog Talk Radio Network, please be sure to tweet the program and throw it on your Tumblr. If you are on the Coffee Party Network, well, you know what you have to do. Make sure all those Coffee Party folks are listening to the program as we speak. Well, Daniel, while I placed you on hold here, I just went ahead and found one of your pictures so that the folks at Facebook Live can actually see what this great activist looks like. Now, I want to have a message. A very important message to the folks in Houston and neighborhoods that generally don't vote. If you see people on the streets right now coming to talk to you, open the doors for them, listen to what they have to say, because I tell you what, this election is going to be consequential. This election is going to be very consequential. Tell us some of the things that this election is going to talk about, Daniel.
I mean, we've seen what's happened over the last couple of years, and we know by the structure of American government whether or not we have a check on some of these things that have been happening will be determined by the election. So anybody who's cared about family separation, anybody who cares about mass incarceration, anybody who wants to see representatives who aren't taking big money and stuffing it in their back pocket, anybody who wants to see someone who thinks about government differently, I mean, this is pretty much your exact chance. There's a lot of focus right now on the Supreme Court seat that is up in the air and the hearings that are going on, and with good reason. But all of the cases that go to the Supreme Court come from lower courts. So who you elect is going to determine who gets appointed to those seats or who gets elected to those who makes decisions about those cases before they go into higher courts. It all has to start somewhere. So if you want to mitigate some of the potential damage that goes up to the Supreme Court, what you can do is prevent it from ever getting there by electing judges in your local community. There's a lot on the line this election. Right now we're in a struggle to define what American government should do. And there are some people who believe that it should be a democracy, and there are other people who believe that it should be sold to the highest bidder. And they're in a tug of war at the moment. And it's not partisan in spirit. It's just partisan in shape because of the structure of the system, which serves people who would prefer that it basically be sold to the highest bidder to begin with. So what we have to do is go out there and organize it ourselves. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use party apparatus, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't encourage people to pull a lever, because frankly, I'm telling people to pull a straight Democratic ticket in my area without even blinking about it. But what I will say is that democracy itself doesn't come from the party. Democracy comes from the conversations that you have with people. Not everybody is going to listen to you and I discuss things online. Not everybody is going to necessarily come to the meetings that you and I go to. And so the only way that you can even open up a conversation is to knock on their door. The other day I was canvassing, and the first door that I knocked on, the woman says to me, "I don't vote." And I said, "May I ask why?" And she says, "There's no one to vote for." And I said, "Can I show you someone?" And she says, "Yes." And so I gave her a piece of literature for your friend Mike Collier. Right. And I said, your local school is not getting the revenue that it should be getting because the people in Austin who are supposed to represent you and make sure that your property tax dollars goes back to your school aren't making it come back. But this guy is going to do that. You think you could check him out? And she said, "Sure, I'll take a look." She went from "I'm not going to vote" to potentially voting and at least having a conversation about something going on in her local community. If you have organizers who understand the system and what's going on and understand their own local communities and have conversations, you get better outcomes and you have a higher likelihood that democracy survives people who are trying to undermine it for their own gain.
Now, anybody who thinks that millennials aren't doing their jobs, I can tell you Daniel J. Cohen is doing a hell of a lot of work to really make sure that not only Harris County votes, but with him appearing on Politics Done Right, that folks all over the country hear that, look, canvassing work, and that there are a whole lot of places that need folks to go out there and canvass and encourage to vote. No voter is expendable. Absolutely no voter is expendable. Give me some closing statements, Daniel.
Ground game can make up to a 5% measurable difference in any election. That's the best ground game, but still, 5% is a lot of points. And there's an unmeasurable effect that's on the back end of that because somebody says, hey, someone knocked on my door. We can't measure that, but we know it has a positive impact on whether or not somebody shows up to the polls. Think of all the elections that are going to be decided by 5 points or less, or even 10 points or less, and how much you can do to contribute to making sure that we flip those into somebody's hands who's a good, strong, solid, progressive leader. A lot is on the line on the ballot in November and in the early ballots, if you will, which starts in October 22nd in the state of Texas. So you got to show up, but you got to make sure that other people show up too. Remember, if you're politically active, that doesn't mean the people around you are politically active, but there are campaigns doing all kinds of different work. There are issue groups doing all kinds of different work to make sure that there's a progressive showing because we know that the country's progressive. We just need to vote that way.
I said that was the last question, but I want to get you to tell us of something else. Give these people that are listening some progressive organizations that they can join all over the country to really help with block walking, to help with encouraging people to vote, to help just simply ensuring that the progressive vote gets out.
Usually there's a campaign or two that's independently strong. You should check out what's going on in your own area, something that really speaks to you. And I'd give that as advice across the board. Whatever speaks to you is the thing that you should dive into. But if you want to flip Congress, if you want to turn Congress, there are strong swing left groups across the United States. There are strong indivisible groups across the United States. If you're in Texas, there's tons of different groups that you can talk to. Pantsy Republic is out in the streets right now, and you can talk to your local party. Remember, your local party is not carrying water for the DNC. It's two different things. So mileage may vary on that, but getting involved in your local community and in your county party gives you an opportunity to have much more of an impact. Because you have more of an impact, you can add to that moral compass in politics in your own backyard. So talk to your local parties, look at your local campaigns that you're interested in, whatever seats or people inspire you and drive you forward, and then look to see what the local swing left and indivisible groups are doing because they're definitely knocking doors in a lot of parts of the United States.
Daniel J. Cohen, president of Indivisible Houston and a Texas precinct chair. Thank you so kindly for appearing with us, Daniel.
Thank you, sir.
Resist. Anyhow, folks, that was Daniel J. Cohen from Indivisible Houston. And as he said, it's all about voting. Welcome, Kenyatta Smith. Welcome, Ben Furloni. Welcome, Jan Higgins. Welcome, Bruce Pollard. Welcome, Michael Rudnin. Gerald Hemmel. Listen, folks, this is how we are going to get it done. But anyhow, what are we going to talk about today? What's the thrust of the program today? Election 2018 is about the bullies and the bullied, not right versus left. Important topic. Subtitle: Election 2018 must be framed as not one Republican versus Democrat, right versus left, but bullies versus the bullied, and right versus wrong. It is important, folks. We are going to have a great show today. We first had Daniel J. Cohen, who is the president of Indivisible Houston, and we will continue with the program that we discussed before. We must mobilize those who are affected by the draconian policies of the Trump administration. And guess what, folks? Most Americans, the vast majority of middle-class Americans, are going to be or are already affected by the draconian policies of Senor Trump. Don't forget it. If you are middle class, if you are poor, you are in worse shape in the aggregate than you were under Obama, than you were under Bush, because of the extraction created by this particular president. Folks, if you're just joining us, Please do remember to share this program on your wall. Please do remember to share this program on your Facebook page. Share this program everywhere, because that is how we are going to make the difference that we must make in this country. Absent that, the plutocracy wins, the extraction continues, and you know what that means. Daniel Lado, I wonder, Daniel knows America is not a democracy. I suspect the low information activist doesn't know that is what you think, Daniel. Daniel, America is a republic. Everybody knows America is a republic, a representative democracy, but not even a representative democracy is working in America based on the gerrymandering that has been placed in a draconian fashion by Republicans, where what they've done is allowed a minority of the country to run the majority, not in a representative fashion. So yes, our activists know quite well how this country works. Our activists quite well know entirely the evil that has been placed on this country, that has taken away the vote explicitly and implicitly from its citizens. Anyhow, folks, we must mobilize those who are affected by the draconian policies of the Trump administration. The number of Americans that are affected by health care, the environment, to taxes, and much more. There is an election of the bullies and the bullied. So, folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. Now, here is the deal. The title of the blog post is called Election 2018, a contest between the bullies and the bullied. A contest between the bullies and the bullied. Starts this way. Election 2018 is not about Democrats versus Republicans. It is an election between the bullies and the bullied. If we communicate that reality, we will stop talking about progressive blue tsunami, and we'll start talking about a progressive blue tsunami and not just a blue wave. It is time for us to change the election 2018 paradigm to reflect its reality, which is one that either will ensure middle class survival or middle class revival or continued decline. Robert Reich's piece titled American Bullies wrote the following about America's bullying culture. I want you to listen here. This is rather important. And folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to share the program on your wall, share the program on your page if you're on Facebook Live. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, please go ahead and tweet the program. And if you are on Coffee Party Radio, share as well. In recent years, America has become a culture of bullying. The wealthier over the poorer, CEOs over workers, those with privilege and pedigree over those without, the whiter over the browner and blacker, men over women. Sometimes the bullying involves physical violence. More often, it entails intimidation, displays of dominance, demands for submission, or arbitrary decisions over the lives of those who feel they have no choice but to accept them. The Kavanaugh-Ford hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 27th was a window into our bullying culture. On one side, powerful men who harass or abuse women and get away with it, privileged white men intent on entrenching power there on the Supreme Court, men vested with the power to take away a woman's right to choose what she does with her body. On the other, women with the courage to tell what has happened to them, to demand an end to the white male privilege, and to preserve and enlarge their constitutional rights. Dr. Ford was poised, articulate, clear, and convincing. More than that, she radiated self-assured power. Brett Kavanaugh, by contrast, showed himself to be a vicious partisan, a Trump-like figure who feels entitled to do and say whatever he wants, who suspects left-wing plots against him, who refuses to take responsibility for his actions, and who uses emotional bullying and intimidation to get his way. Who can even forget how he addressed Klobuchar? I think it was Senator Klobuchar in the room. How could anyone forget how rude he was to the woman, to the Democratic woman on the that was questioning him. That was completely wrong. Folks, if you're just joining us, please do remember to share this on your Twitter, Tumblr, your Facebook page, Facebook Live. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, remember to share this on Twitter as well. Anyhow, so this guy turns out to be one of likely the most partisan, the most rude, and the most lying. And we say it on Politics Done Right. The mainstream media is scared to tell the truth about Kavanaugh. He's a liar. He goes out and he tells folks he was a poster boy. He wasn't a drunk. He didn't pass out as. Now you have all the students who knew him coming out and said this guy was not just a drunk. He was a sloppy drunk. And watching him in that room, it wasn't so surprising to see him act like a thug. A Supreme Court justice on an interview in the Judiciary Committee who had the antics of a thug. That is what we had in that room. Everybody else well behaved. Well, except Lindsey Graham, who we understand what Lindsey has to do. Lindsey is going to be in a tough race, so he has to bring his Trump bona fides for South Carolina. So he has to look like he's there to support Trump's nominee, and that judiciary judge, that judge everybody wants. Because he's going to overturn Roe versus Wade, because he's going to make sure that the plutocracy continues its pilfer of the American people. Yes, the pilfer of the American people will continue. The pilfer of the American people will continue. But continuing with the blog, Reich then tied our bullying culture into election 2018. By pointing out how the privileged class use the technique to maintain their power. And he says as follows, quote, "It's not only a contest between Democrats and Republicans, left or right. It's a contest between the bullies and the bullied. It's about the power of those who are rich, white, privileged, or male, or all of the above, to threaten and intimidate those who aren't. And it's about the courage of the bullied to fight back." Donald Trump is America's bully in chief. He exemplifies those who use their wealth to gain power and celebrity, harass or abuse women, and get away with it, lie and violate the law with impunity, and rage against anyone who calls them for their bullying. Now, Trump became president exploiting the anger of millions of white working class Americans who for decades have been economically bullied corporate executives, CEOs, and Wall Street. But close quote. Most importantly, Reich points out that what I call bullying gradation that Trump used to win the Electoral College. Trump used this anger to build his political base, channeling the frustrations and anxieties into racism and nativism. He encouraged Americans who have been bullied to feel more powerful by bullying people with even less power. Poor blacks, Latinos, immigrants, Muslims, families seeking asylum. This bullying game has been played repeatedly in history by self-described strongmen who pretend to be tribunes of the oppressed by scapegoating the truly powerless. Close quote. Now, he then identifies the bullies, right? And this shouldn't come as no surprise for most activists, likely come as a surprise to several people who think the private sector is benevolent. A lie, but that's what they think. The private sector is not a democracy. The private sector is none of the kind. Actually, well, here's what Reich continued. Trump is no tribune for the people. He and his enablers in the Republican Party are working for the moneyed interests, the Koch brothers, Sheldon Adelson, other corporate and Wall Street chief maintains by cutting their taxes, eliminating regulations, slashing public services, and allowing them to profit off of public lands, coastal waters, and privatized services. The moneyed interests are America's hidden bullies. They are their hidden bullies. They have enlarged their net worth by repressing wages for pushing the companies they invest in to do so, and enlarged their political power through gerrymandering and suppressing votes, or pushing their political lackeys to do so. Close quote. We can stop it all, folks. If we show up to election 2018, make that commitment and restore what is rightfully ours. Restore what is rightfully yours. Folks, the telephone number 646-716-5812. Why won't you call? Or someone do call. 646-716-5812. And before I continue, let me run and go to the page here and see what people are writing. We progressives win by garnering the vote of those who don't usually vote. We do so through social media and the political platform that focuses on the issues that matter to the people, in promising to use government to tangibly make the lives better. That comes from Michael Rudnin. Welcome aboard, Senor Bruce Pollard and Jan Higgins. Let's see what else here. I prefer humans with souls versus the soulless, heartless zombies. That's Ben Ferlini, and Kenyatta is here as well. Okay, we also have Gerald Hummel. I've heard that they may delay the midterms until the final vote on Judge Kavanaugh. I don't know that they can do that, but who knows what Trump would try. But I don't know that they can do that. Daniel Ladosa, I wonder if Daniel knows America is not a democracy. Yes, I think we discussed that one already. Michael Rudden, when you talk about Trump's draconian policies, the first thing that comes to mind is a child separation detention and at our southern border. Yes, these people that claim to be people of God, people that love life, people that love families, when they can make a buck, what do? They separate the families. Do you think they're separating the families because they fear those families? Do you think they're separating the families because they think these guys are going to come into the different towns in the United States and raise havoc? No, most of these people already have relatives and families out here, and what they had to find some way to get here. Look, I've told folks this about immigration, and my policy, what I believe in immigration, it doesn't follow the Democratic Party, it doesn't follow the Republican Party or anything. I say this: if somebody is ingenious enough to get their foot on the U.S. land, then they shouldn't be deported. And you know, that's the policy we had with Cuba. If you swam that strait and you made it and you touched dry land, you became a resident of the United States from Cuba. If you got here, you stayed here. For me, yes, let's have strong borders to kind of control the influx of people, that make sure it's not a wave. But you know what? If those that are ingenious, I want to hire those people that really know how to get over the border, because they're smart people. The fact that they can get here, they're smart folk. So, but more importantly, the reason I'm not a discriminator of people come into this country is because this country was founded on taking away something that belonged to somebody else. That's how it was founded. However, as we progress, we got better, we got nicer, we got freer, we became good people. So don't ever forget that we, not the Native Americans, but the first immigrants to America, they came to take the land. The new immigrants to America are just coming to get a job. Let's remember that. Let's remember that the founders came and took something that belonged or that other folks lived on. Because remember, the people that live on this place before didn't believe in things like land ownership, or, you know, they believed the land was of God. And everybody should believe the land is of what, you know, I sit down. I own the piece of land that I live on, you know, because I have my home on it or whatever. But sometimes I get into thinking about my hypocrisy. But it's just the way the laws are written, so I guess it's not hypocrisy. But how do you own something that's always been there? And if you own this stuff, does that mean that there's going to be eventually a class of people that can just about own nothing because all the land is owned and permeates through families? You know, I mean, anyhow, that's for a different subject. But as far as the person who came here with the made that mention, Anyhow, let's go. Michael Redden says, I suspect that all those who talk about our nation not being a democracy, but a republic miss the point. Having a government for the people, not the moneyed interest. Exactly. You'd hit it on the money. Daniel Lado, unmeasurable. I wonder when that made it into the left. Don't know what you're talking about. Daniel Lado replying to Daniel Lado, if you want your point understood, one should probably use correct labeling and not leave meaning to a guess. Don't know what you're talking about again. Okay, Daniel Lado says, Egberto seems to rely heavily on Robert Reich for much of his opinions and talking points. And I am, let's see, am I the only one who has noticed many of his blogs posts rely on copious cuts and pastes of Robert Reich's article? Oh, you know what's so great about blogs? They are permanent. And folks can actually see if you're full of caca. I love Robert Reich. In the last week or two, I probably used 4 of his blogs. And you know what? We write how many blogs in a week? Let's see. There are 7 days in a week, and we write 3 blogs a day. So 21 blogs on our website, at minimum of 21 blogs on our website every week. And you're complaining about 4 Robert Reich blogs, most of them used as text because he's darn good at analysis. Daniel, one must wonder, what are you trying to do by asking our listeners if they've noticed that Egberto is using a whole lot of stuff from Robert Reich? Daniel, why don't you tell us what you're trying to imply about Politics Done Right, or about EgbertoWillies.com, or about politicsdoneright.com? Please tell me, why did you think you needed to tell the audience that? I mean, they already know it. They read it. And it's not like we don't tell them that we are referencing Robert Reich. That's what we do here. If we are going to reference somebody, we give the citations to him, which we did. I mean, if you printed something or published something sensible, we would take it. We may use it. Just like I have a right-wing friend at Starbucks that is writing a blog on immigration. He's going to be on EgbertoWillies.com, and he will be well cited as well. So tell me, Daniel Lado, what exactly was your reason for not only telling our audience that in this particular feed, but also going all over my sites to say, have you noticed he's been copying and pasting Robert Reich? It's not like it was done in a hidden fashion, but one must ask, why do you think you need to do that? And many of our listeners can probably infer. Okay, Kathleen Morgan, welcome aboard. Michael Rudden, I'm not on my phone. Don't know how I can share the link. Okay, let's see what else I've got here. Daniel Lado says the reason why he places that on the site is that the opinions, maybe I can't form my own opinions. That in itself is a denigration, right? Because not only do I have a book called As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. You can always go to our blog site, go to EgbertoWillies.com, click on books, and you can get you a hard copy or an e-copy of the book at Amazon.com. And this has my full ideas on how to make a better country as I see it. Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. And likewise, you and I together, I'm releasing one chapter tonight, the introduction of, guess what? How to Make America Utopia. Again, Daniel Lado by Egberto Willies. And folks, I've just got completed writing the introduction to the book. If you want to see the book, just go ahead and subscribe to Politics Done Right. There's a very small subscription to Politics Done Right. And as I release chapters, you can go ahead, click on it, and read it. So unlike what you would hear from some of our good friends, Daniel Ledo, who I'm surprised he was trying to demean yours truly, haha. There's a book written. We have thousands of blogs, original blogs, without Dr. Reich on egbertowillies.com. So please visit and see what Daniel Ledo is talking about. I mean, I just had to pick that up because I always find it amusing when right-wingers, my right-wing friends, sometimes they kind of have an undercurrent that they want to sort of smack you over the head if they somehow think you don't have original thinking. And I wonder why he may think I don't have original thinking. I don't know. But anyhow, continuing, let's see. Daniel also says, I hardly think the IRS would be okay with you failing to file a tax return. It's only paper after all. Oh, you must be answering to somebody else, but hey, I don't know. Anyway, Michael Redden says, are you a silly person, or everyone has their own opinions? Thank you. And Michael Redden says, crossing the border and failing to pay taxes are two separate offenses. One's worse than the other. By the way, immigrants pay taxes but don't get as many benefits as citizens. That is one thing that my right-wing friend realized. My right-wing, let me give a little story. My right-wing friend, went ahead and did some research, right? He did some research. And he found out that if we don't get immigrants into this country, if we don't start getting an influx of immigrants into this country, guess what goes bankrupt? Social Security. Because we are not multiplying enough to cover what we have to cover past the baby boom years. So the only way to get past that is to bring immigrants into the country, because immigrants are going to work, the immigrants are going to pay Social Security taxes, and all of that. The other thing they don't tell you is that the illegal immigrants are very, very, very big economic churners. Why? Because they go to the restaurants, they go ahead and they buy stuff, and all those abarroterias. Wow. Abarroterias, those things like 7-Eleven and all those little convenience stores, what it's called. I couldn't remember the name in English. Convenience stores. All those convenience stores, if you take a look here in Kingwood or many other parts of the country, right before lunchtime, they're jamming with all those people that are in these neighborhoods doing stuff. Not only that, but early in the morning, they're there buying a coffee. And those store owners, many of them that live right there in your town, as soon as if they were ever to send those people back, their business dropped by more than half. Be careful what you wish for, because 13 million people out of our economy that spends all of their monies, that's mucho dinero. Okay, Daniel says illegal immigrants do not file tax returns. Daniel, I know too many of them who do. Okay? You're wrong. I mean, a lot of them do it because they haven't a clue. They haven't a clue that's probably a way that, I mean, I don't know if the databases are shared or whatever. Anyhow, folks, let me make my quick pitch here, and then we'll go back to the program. But anyhow, please remember, this is a this is a progressive show. We ask that you join the show, become a member of the show, join Politics Done Right by going to patreon.com/Politics Done Right. patreon.com/Politics Done Right. If you subscribe, you get a chance to, as I write this book, to read this, the chapters that I write. I'm about to release a chapter tonight. Folks that are on our huge mailing list are all going to get email later on tonight that gives them a link to where to find the book. If you want to be on that list, please go ahead and go to patreon.com, patreon.com/Politics Done Right. And we will send you the first chapter. Well, the first chapter is already online. Once you click on it and you're registered, you'll go right into it to read the first chapter. I've started working on the second chapter. of the book. I hope to have it in a couple weeks max, I think. You know, it's kind of tough right now. We're talking taxes. I've got to go do my taxes. You know, I file sometime in when? I guess in October sometime. So anyhow, folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to share this on your wall, share this on your page, share this on your Twitter, share this everywhere, because that is how we're going to inform people about what's going on. Earlier on, we had Daniel J. Cohen, who is president of Indivisible Houston and also a precinct chair. He was talking about how do we get the vote out? And let me tell you, what he's doing is some important work. Let me bring the phone call in. I think this is a Skype caller. Come on in, Skype caller.
Yes, my friend, Mr. Egberto. This is Mike from Singapore. How are you, sir?
Mike, how are you doing, sir?
Thank you very much as well. Yes, I want to say that, you know, this coming election is very important for the people. United States needs to be wake up and, you know, to vote, you know, Socialist Democratic Party and anyone who is in that manner, they need to give vote for that, because it's time for United States to wake up, and we need to spend all the money that we give out to, you know, military industrial complex to American people back, make our roads better, make our home structures better, and the social free healthcare for everyone, and, you know, also to take care of the citizens of United States first. That's how you make America great again.
You know,
am I right or wrong?
You are absolutely, my friend, you are absolutely correct. That is, you know, for anybody who wants to talk about, oh, make America great again and all that kind of stuff. You make America great by doing the things that you were just talking about, Mike. Mike, you're in Singapore. How comes you know so much about American politics, or you're an expatriate out there in Singapore?
No, I am American citizen, but I work here.
Oh, I see. You're an American citizen in Singapore.
Yeah,
great. Now,
yeah,
I mean, Singapore has socialized medicine as well. Singapore, likely the cleanest city on the planet and one of the most educated cities on the planet. So, I mean, it's amazing how the people who complain about socialized medicine or whatever, or Medicare for all, don't realize that the most important economists around the world have seen the light and realized that that is the only and best way to provide health care to its citizens. Is that correct, Mike?
Absolutely. I mean, China, they have the same system. I mean, it's not a joke. Or India, I mean, recently they're giving to 1.3 billion. India, you know, healthcare as well too. I mean, if India can, and China can, Singapore can, European Union can, Canada can, I mean, why not we cannot?
I mean,
that's the issue.
You are absolutely correct, Mike. The truth of the matter is the reason we haven't thus far is because of the paid moneyed interest. And the moneyed interest has been preventing us from doing the things that are right by the American citizen. And the way they do that is they continue to fool the American citizen with bad advertising, with lies. They have think tanks like the Heritage Foundation that gives people information that gives the plausibility of reality, but really they are nothing but fallacies. So I mean, there are many reasons why Americans are, I don't like to say confused, it's because I don't want to sound condescending, but are misinformed. And one cannot help being misinformed if they have a proclivity for a particular channel, as opposed to saying, I am going to visit all channels and give each one, make each one of them prove themselves. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, absolutely, indeed, my dear friend, Mr. Egberto. But, you know, as another thing is that is everything sham in the United States. I mean, the Kavanaugh showdown is a sham, and they're trying to distract us from the main reality of the problems in this beloved country.
Absolutely.
They're trying to let us, you know, numb us, make us zombie, so we forget about
exactly. Let me
all this issue.
Let me tell you something for all the people that are listening, and for those of you who are going to listen to this in podcasts, and for those Trump voters that listen as well, and we do have Trump voters who listen, let me tell you something. The person that you think is your hero, the person that you voted for, the person that told you they were going to do well by you, what they've done is that they've made sure that you will die sooner. And I'm not saying that to be rough. I'm not saying that to be raw. I'm saying that because it's the truth. Let me give some examples. They are reducing the requirements for methane, throwing methane into the air, and that serves two immediacies, right? One is that it increases global warming. But for those who don't believe in global warming, it's that is pie in the sky kind of stuff, and it doesn't really exist. What else is it gonna do? It also goes ahead and for people who live and work in those areas where there are oil wells, they can release more methane. It gets into the air. It irritates your child in your crib. It irritates you. It does all these things to people. It reduces your lifespan. For those of the folks who live in places here like Pasadena, Texas, or on some of the Gulf Coast of Alabama and all these places or in California, where we have all these refineries, California, I think, have state local laws that protects better. But in all these other places where these things are not protected, they dump all this crap in the air. And you know what? It's not in the neighborhoods where the managers live, in the neighborhoods where the executives live. It's in the neighborhoods of the Trump voter. When it talks about allowing people to dump more ash into streams, okay? Because coal is
Absolutely.
good. Coal is good. It's mercury going down into the stream. It's selenium going into the stream and poisoning not the rich people who have special water, but Trump voters. So as Trump talks about deregulation and all these particular issues, folks, he is killing most of the people he's killing. And with the lack of health care that he just destroyed many parts of it, it's you, the Trump voter, who suffers the most. The liberal voter generally is better off. So, hey, go ahead, Mike.
Yes, absolutely, indeed, sir, Egberto. Yes, and especially Donald Trump supporters, blind follow the blinds.
Right.
In matter of fact, and then as a result, they go there. I mean, those people actually who go whenever Donald Trump they show up, each one of them get cash money. I am sure of it. Otherwise, we're not giving cash before, and they know exactly how many people will attend. He will not even go there to talk. He just say, "Oh, I am so good. It's like a king of Pharaoh."
Right. Right.
Oh, I am the best. I am the best. If you are the best, let the people decide if you are the best or you are not.
Absolutely. So
it's not like that. I am the best. I'm not. It's just putting in brainwashing. And have you noticed he keep repeating himself in his speeches?
Yes.
Because they say, if you say a lie 100 times, many times, yes, it goes automatically into the conscience of the people. Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. So absolutely. You're absolutely right, sir. But you know what? Things are coming to a change. And things will change, and I am confident. I am extremely confident that I shouldn't say confident. I'm hopeful that come November 6th, everything would have changed, and we will start the rollback. Now, it's going to take a time. It's easier to break a wall than to build a wall. You can break a wall down in a few minutes. That same wall to build and stay secure take you hours. So it's going to take us a lot of time to rebuild the destruction effected by Donald Trump, but it's something that we have to do. Anything else that you want to add before we leave here, Mike?
My friend, people need to wake up sooner than later, because two-party system is just take us hostage. Actually, either you bring eight years of Republican or 4 years of Republican, then you go back to 8 years of Democrats, and then again you switch back between them, because Democrats and Republicans are both this kind of very same, and it just maybe a little bit different, but that difference, it doesn't matter, because in Singapore, in India, in all the countries around the globe, we have multiple parties.
Mm-hmm.
Why should we only be able to choose two evils, and then we have to choose the lesser of two evils?
Exactly.
That's not an election. Is not an election. Is not democracy. And if we want democracy, we must have multiple. Parties. Otherwise, it's a sham election.
Thank you so kindly, Mike. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I would love to see parties like the Green Party and party like the there's a party called I think it's the Independent Party, and several other parties come to the fold. The Progressive Party. I'd like to see a real progressive party out there that's not the Green Party. The Green Party has itself some problems as well. I like them just like I like the Democratic Party, and I love the old Republican Party, the one that passed civil rights was all about. So or helped pass civil rights was all about. So I mean, I am not tied to the parties or the ideologies or anything like that. I'm tied to policy. But folks, we're coming close to the end of the program. I want to remind you that you can go to, let me put that on the screen again. You can go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright, and subscribe to Politics Done Right. One of the offers we have is the book, How to Make America Utopia. I am just writing it. I just got through with the introduction. I've started writing chapter 2. So the chapter 1 is the introduction. I've started writing chapter 2. Check it out. Folks will be getting an email later on tonight to introduce them to it. If you want to get to it right now, go ahead and subscribe to Politics Done Right. It's pretty darn cheap, my friend. Subscribe to Politics Done Right, and you will have access to the part of our website that has the book. Anyhow, folks, we're coming to the end of the program. Thank you so kindly for having been here with us.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much,
Take
Mike.
care.
You have a wonderful day. Now, folks, do remember that you have to keep calling your senators right now. Call the senators in your particular state, the 2 senators in your state. Let them know that you do not want Kavanaugh. Let them know you don't want Kavanaugh. And why? Because, first of all, he's not qualified to be judge. You cannot have somebody who has a checkered past like he has to be on the court. Every decision that he votes for would be suspect. And any decision that he is the fulfilling vote, that he is the standing vote, that decision will be suspect. That is something we do not want in the Supreme Court. Folks, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you have yourself a wonderful day. And you know how I'm going to close this, baby. I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.